Yeah, we're going.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Happy Wednesday.
My voice, it kills me. Today is a special day because we have our first guest since since having Zion,
Yeah,
right?
I think that is true.
Oh my God. Oh my
This
God.
is
Oh my God. Oh my
amazing.
God. So our first guest in almost 2 years.
Yes.
So I'm going to read her bio and then we'll just get right into it. Okay. Amrit-Sadhana is a certified trauma-informed nervous system coach, herbalist, and public speaker. She teaches people how to heal their nervous system through self-regulation and shift their relationship to anxiety so that we can show up in the world as our most authentic selves. Her passion to spread the awareness that feeling safe in our bodies is part of our birthright, yes, speaks volumes through her content and the work she does. She's currently launching a corporate wellness talk that teaches people about their nervous system, how to self-regulate at work, and not only improve their productivity and creativity, but their overall quality of life. She's a walking testimony of her own work. Amrit-Sadhana, thank you so
Hi.
much for coming on. Welcome to the
Welcome.
pod.
Thank you for having me.
This is so exciting because we met, quote unquote, internet. We became internet friends in 2020 in
Yeah.
like all of the uprisings.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sort of just like came into my life for what they thought I could provide for them. But like you and I became
We're the best. We're like internet besties.
No, we totally are. So like it's just wonderful that like almost 3 years later, here we
Yeah.
are on
Almost.
completely opposite ends of the country
That's
doing
so
our
cool,
thing,
by the
isn't
way.
it?
It's super
Like,
cool.
It is so cool.
It's like I hate Instagram. It's trash, but like this is why I stay on.
Right.
Yes.
It's like for as much trash as you get, there's these sprinkling of gems
Little
that
gems.
happen.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Okay, so we always start the podcast with pet peeves because we love to talk about things that get on our nerves, which is
mostly what we do on Instagram.
so I'm gonna ask Mark first because I always start with you.
So for me, this is really about people, happens a lot in work, happens also in life, right? So people who definitely have a very strong opinion or opinions about,
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought
No,
you were
no,
gonna say
go.
something.
No.
About like how to interact with people, right? So they'll like be talking in a room and how we need to kind of share ideas and be transparent and like, be able to have constructive conflict.
Uh-huh.
And then the first time, like you're even pseudo transparent with something that goes to them,
Yeah.
they like completely shut down and like throw a complete like fit. And for the life of me, I can't reconcile it. You can call it hypocrisy, you can call it whatever.
Yeah.
But in the world that we live in right now, right, communication and constructive conflict is more important than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there is a ton of people with very strong opinions who have no idea how to put it in practice. So.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I add to yours. I can't even add to that. It's just complete. Yep. Agree. It reminds me of like an old school, like, don't dish it out if you can't take it. Like, don't ask for transparency if like you actually can't be a human in whatever comes up in that.
Exactly.
Okay, mine, I'm actually going to call out myself today.
No way.
I know, I would never. But you're going to definitely relate to this. I know you were. But I was being annoying yesterday. So I just like, I was on the internet and just like, just like being stupid with not posting more and not, just like keeping up with things the way I did before I had a child. And it was exactly like your face. Exactly. And it was just, I don't know. And then Mark was like, what are you doing? Like, who cares? And I was like, I know that it's not it's just not that deep. Like Instagram is it provides really wonderful relationships and a way to keep up with people that I don't see in person or I don't live near or whatever. And yeah, like a lot of opportunities have come from Instagram, but at the same time, like I'm living real life in real life. Like I'm working my ass off and I have so many responsibilities and like I can't be on my phone all day. And so I'm annoyed with myself for actually being annoyed with myself that I can't be on my phone all day, creating things for other people to consume for free when I have
The for free
other
part.
things. Yes, also the for free part. But, yeah. So I'm annoyed with myself. My pet peeve is myself via Instagram.
I
That's
love that
valid.
one.
I run
Thank
through
you.
that one a lot. I
Yeah,
think
it
I'm
sucks.
gonna go with, okay, so there's always that one person that needs to say that like whatever you're sharing, whatever your experience is, that that's not their experience.
Oh my gosh. That gets on my nerves.
Like first, it's like surefire that and that's their experience and it's totally valid. I'm not putting it down, but it's always surefire if I post something about my own healing journey or a tool for anxiety or nervous system regulation or whatever. There's always that one person that's like, well, I just have anxiety and there's nothing I can do about it. And like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And it's like, I get it. I'm really sorry, but like, swipe along. If it's fly, let it fly. Like, why
Yes.
why do you need to center yourself?
Agree.
Like
Agree.
all of these other people are saying it's great. Like you can say it doesn't work for you, but it's like the need to center yourself and have yourself be so different. It's like
Yes.
just social media. Like
Yeah.
it's the trauma comparing. Like we got to stop it. It's not helpful for anybody.
Yes. I completely agree because
Like
this
not
will
the
happen
trauma,
to me too.
it's trauma Olympics and it's like so exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never heard of it that way. That's actually really great.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Mark loves you already. I love it. Okay, so what okay. No, let's go all the way back.
Okay.
Talk to me about nervous system regulation. If someone has never heard that before, like what does that even mean?
Okay, cool. So where do I want to start? So your nervous system is it's the motherboard for your body. And it's also a blueprint. It remembers all good memories, all bad memories. And when we get what's called like a dysregulated nervous system, that means that at some point in our life, we've left our window of tolerance. Your nervous system is like teetering on either side of a scale at any given time. And so for those of us who've had like trauma or extended stress, we've gone what's called like outside of our window of tolerance and kind of gotten like out of balance.
Okay.
And our body has a really hard time finding baseline. So the average human who has like a regulated nervous system hasn't really had things that have thrown its nervous system out of balance for long periods of time. They'll, for example, like be driving to work and somebody like slams on the brakes in front of them. They'll slam on the brakes. They'll get a racing heart. But the moment the like perceived threat of danger or the threat of danger is gone, they just regulate back to baseline without even really thinking about it.
Okay.
Which I would love to know what that's like. So what we need to do in order to heal that, and I want to preface with healing your nervous system, just like healing, is a lifetime commitment. There's no like, oh, I healed it and I'm never going to have to do these tools again. And the unfortunate and hard truth from the trauma-informed training that I took is that once you've gone into dysregulated for a long period of time, you don't go back to that ability to just self-regulate without thinking.
Okay.
And like, we do know that like trauma changes the brain, but healing also changes the brain. But as we know, it takes like so much more work than like the original thing that does the changing. So to regulate, that's basically just like explained simply, it takes incredible like just body awareness and understanding those very first signs of dysregulation or anxiety. And it's going to look different for everybody. Like my heart rate starts to race. I like start to feel my throat get a little bit tight. I'll get like a tightness in my chest. And that's a symbol to me that, okay, I'm feeling dysregulated and I need to do some things to help myself find what my baseline is at that given time.
Okay.
And it's the body. You have to deal with the nervous system, you have to go into the body, but we can't forget about the mind. And the comparison I like to use, you guys have a small child, so this will be perfect for you. You know, when Zion like is playing around and maybe like falls, and he's not hurt, but he's not sure how to respond. So he'll look to one of you and you'll either go, are you good? You're okay. Like shake it off. You're good. Look at you. And they go along and they do their thing. Or you can go, oh my God. Are you okay? And he's going to probably have a meltdown.
Right.
And so it's a similar thing with the relationship between your mind and your body, whereas your nervous system's alerting you that your nervous system alerts you when it thinks that there is a perceived threat of danger. Whether that danger is there or not doesn't matter. It goes off of sensation. It can be a smell, a sound, a word, a touch, a taste, like it can be anything. And so that's when your mind can go, hey, there's not a tiger in the room. Like we are okay. Let's breathe. Let's go for a walk. Let's make a cup of tea. Let's do some breath work. Let's do some shaking. Let's finish the stress cycle. Or your mind can go, but there's a tiger in the room. Your body's gonna then your body's just gonna spiral and keep going. And so it really is, it is mental discipline, and it's also somatic practices and allowing your body. You can't stop your body from feeling it. We need anxiety. It's very, very important. It's not the enemy, but it's recognizing my body's speaking to me right now and it needs some attention. And we as humans, for survival, our first instinct is to want to lean away from that because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the answer is actually leaning into it and sitting with it and being like, okay, what do we need? What do you know?
I have so many questions.
Yeah,
already.
go.
So one of my favorite books of all time is a book called The Gift of Fear by a gentleman named Gavin Becker. And like that was the first time anyone really reframed something that we all kind of think is a negative into something to embrace. Yes. So do you see anxiety the same way, as kind of a gift, depending on how we actually handle it?
That's a really great question. I don't know if I would call it a gift in the sense that so many people suffer from it. And I think that for some people hearing that, they're going to think, it's a good thing. But what I will say is that when you experience anxiety, this was one of the most profound things I learned in trauma-informed training, and I still remind myself of it every day. I'm very open about the fact that I have diagnosed PTSD. Your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And like, when I heard that, I just wanted to hug myself because I'm like, oh, my body's trying to take care of me. It's trying to keep me safe, but I'm no longer in an environment where I need to be kept safe. I am safe. And so I think that it's not necessarily a gift, but it's our body's natural response to danger. And I think that before you came down, Ashley and I were talking about this. We've gotten so intolerant of discomfort. And discomfort, when we become intolerant of discomfort, it actually makes for lack of a better word, I'm going to use the word weaker. It makes a weaker, more sensitive nervous system. And when we teach our nervous system, it's okay to do things that scare us. We should do things that scare us. It teaches the nervous system resilience and is like, oh, that didn't kill me. So like there's been some studies around like strength training and powerlifting and how that's actually a really, really incredible and important way to build resiliency in the nervous system because it puts the body through the fear. Like it simulates the fear reaction. and you get done doing your like 230-pound deadlift or whatever, and your body finishes that stress cycle and it's like, oh, I fucking did that. Can I cuss?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Have you
definitely,
met us?
definitely can.
And so I like that you asked if it was a gift, because in a sense, I guess that you could explain it in that way, in the sense that your body's, it is a gift from your body alerting you that it's really just an alert that something needs attention. That's ultimately how I look at it. And learning how to sit with it that's a gift.
Ah,
Oh, that's interesting.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
that is definitely a like a great perspective on it. And the other related thing that I had as you were kind of talking is, anxiety just kind of is a normal in our everyday life. So in my mind, like, how do we know if we're just experiencing normal anxiety, and versus like complete and utter nervous system unregulation? Like where does that line sit? And I'm not asking if we can self-diagnose, but there must be things that we can look at that could, tend to signal.
Yeah, I actually just posted it on my Instagram this week, a little, like, it's not a diagnostic list and it's not a complete list, but it's like signals that you may be living with a dysregulated nervous system. And those things include, like, kind of like, if you're anxious all the time, if you're anxious more often than you're not anxious, if you're quick to react, quick to anger, quick to anything, like if you're having a hard time regulating your emotions, that's a really good indication that you've got some nervous system dysregulation. If you're having a lot of sleep, that's another one. If you're like, or if you're having issues with sleep, you're finding that your sleep patterns are off, that's another one. Also, if you are kind of like hypervigilance is another really good sign of it. So there's a lot of them, like digestive issues can be one, just like overall health issues, because we have to remember that the nervous system runs pretty much everything in the body. Like the endocrine system, I believe, I could be misspeaking, but like that's the only thing that's not, like, it's still attached to it, but it's not like directly ran by the nervous system. But cortisol levels are a hormone that do affect it. So yes, they're directly connected. So the piece that I work with a lot, it's there's something called polyvagal theory, and it's the study of the vagus nerve and its impacts on our body's ability to feel safe. And so what I like to teach clients is that we have tools that we need to you can't heal your nervous system just by using tools when you're having an anxiety or panic attack. You will continue to have anxiety and panic attacks. You'll have tools that'll help you get through them, but you have to build that resiliency, and you have to do things that are uncomfortable, which, like Ashley and I've talked about this before, besides anti-racism work being absolutely necessary and important, it's also a great thing to teach you to sit with the discomfort and to feel what it feels like in your body, and to wonder why you're having those reactions to things and become curious about it. I think that being curious is a really important part of nervous system regulation, because we always have like knee-jerk reactions to things.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, I was actually reading Hood Feminism the other day, and I read a line, and I was like, ooh, that one. It's like, but then I was like, okay, does this apply specifically to me? Okay, let me get curious about like why this is bringing up a defense in myself. What do I think that if this does apply to me, what do I think this means about who I am as a person, who I am as a woman, how I show up in the world? And I just sat and I breathed through it. And then I was like, this was important for me to read. This is important for me to do. So we use nervous system regulation in almost everything that we do. And it's so important to learn to sit in the discomfort, because our nervous system immediate response is to want to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Yeah. Speaking as someone who spent a lot of his life compartmentalizing things and not wanting to face into it, I can definitely attest to the fact that, since myself and Ashley have been in a relationship, while it's more joyous than anything I've ever felt, I've also, had to lean into a lot of discomfort, both personally and around me. And I
Yeah.
think you were
Same.
spot on.
Totally same. Because too, I don't think I've ever said this on this podcast or like literally ever in public, but I don't think I knew how to be with a great guy, if that makes any sense.
I hear it.
You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
Because
And
I could have a whole conversation about this.
and so like the stuff that was coming up and partly, for like from my upbringing, right? Like my parents got divorced for a reason. And so what I learned about relationships and what I learned about love, and then what I experienced leading up to meeting Mark, I just like was not prepared for somebody to actually love me unconditionally.
Yeah.
And I also wasn't prepared to like sit in my own bullshit of like, okay, so he's here now, like, what are you going to do? And
Yeah,
how are you going to grow from that?
because if you're in a toxic or an abusive relationship, you don't have to take accountability because
No,
you're not the
you're
problem.
the victim.
You're the victim.
Why? And you're just like you're trying to survive it. You're trying to figure stuff out. There's like your nervous system is doing so many other things.
And it's so so I think that's another piece that's really important to, totally didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope,
But
you're
like
good.
you're so used to, so it's like if you grew up in an environment of chaos, your nervous system is used to the chaos. It's
Yes.
uncomfortable,
Yes.
but but a healthy, like, it feels wrong. Why aren't there fights? Why isn't it like why
Yes.
isn't it polarizing? Like, why isn't
Yes.
there all this stuff? Like, what is this weird sense of calm in my life? I don't know what to do with it.
That's literally it. Like you're not going to yell. You're not going to throw something. You're
You're
not
gonna
going to
get mad at
break
me for telling you how
something.
I
Like,
feel?
yeah. Didn't
Yes.
know how to be in that literally
It's
at all.
weird because it's really weird. And that's where you have to, and that's too where you're like, well, why isn't this response happening the way that I'm used to it happening? And then you have to regulate yourself, because then you convince yourself there's something wrong,
Yes.
because love must be abusive.
Right.
Love must be toxic. Love must be like fighting for one another.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable to also to be like, no, bitch, it's you.
That's
it's you.
It's you. Like, you're the problem.
You're the problem. You're the one. You need to calm down. You need
Yeah.
to unclench your jaw, like put
And
down
your
the wine
butthole.
glass. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for talking about buttholes, because like I also I'll say that sometimes. I don't say it as much anymore because I feel like people are just like, what? But even
You call it
teaching,
lemon booty. I
I'm
can't
like,
take that
unclench
one.
your butthole. You don't need that tension.
You don't.
You really don't.
You really don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes, a lot of people talk about how when you come out of, this was big for me, coming out of being in like the sympathetic state for so long,
Yeah.
how exhausted you are. Like a level of
Mhm.
exhaustion that you can't even explain unless you've experienced it. It's like cellular.
Yeah.
And because the parasympathetic state, you can also get stuck in that one. And that's like, so we have the sympathetic state, you get stuck in that. That's anxious, hypervigilant, all of those things. And then the parasympathetic state, it can be like lethargy and lack of motivation and depression. And so that's why baseline is so important. I think a lot of people are like, oh, we want to live in that parasympathetic state. It's like, you don't want to live there. You want to find that scale balance, or whatever version of your scale balance that is, because living in either one is not healthy.
That makes total sense. You just said cellular, which triggered something for me, right? So that, do you believe, just like talk about an unregulated nervous system from an epigenetics perspective, can that transcend? You can.
Yeah. That's, that I believe that is where, like, obviously, like, trauma causes dysregulation, right? So that's generational trauma, right? It's passed down from generation. And like, it is it affects. So when you are in utero, your mom is your nervous system.
Yeah.
Your mom, even for the first, like, I don't quote me on this, so I don't know exactly, but I think it's like 3 to 6 months of your life, your vagal tone is your mother's vagal tone. You don't like, that's why, like, in a lot of cultures, there's like there's what's called the 4th trimester.
Yeah.
Or like, I grew up with like a 40 days postnatal where the baby's not supposed to, like, it was narrated to us that like the baby's not supposed to leave the mom's aura
I've
because
read this. Yes.
she
Yeah.
is the baby's nervous system. You know how when Zion was first born and you'd like go to change his diaper and like he'd be naked and like flail, if you just take like something that weighs even like another onesie or something and place it on their chest, they'll furl in and like calm down just from having, because it's that, like I posted yesterday about the hand on the heart.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's that same thing. It helps to self-soothe and regulate the nervous system.
That, yeah, it actually, it makes so much sense. And I don't want to use the word like lucky, but with having a baby in COVID, right? You can't have a lot of people around. And I was reading about how like in other cultures,
It's
like
just like mama and
the
like
mom and the
dad
baby,
and
30,
like maybe
40
an auntie
days.
or a grandmother, and that's it.
Yeah. And like, and that whoever the people are with the mom, they're like giving them broth and making sure
Yeah,
they're
mom
like
doesn't do
staying
anything
in bed.
but
She's not
take
supposed to
care
do
of
anything.
baby. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, if we talk about how fucked up America is, we'll be here
That's the
all
thing.
night.
We'll be
It's
here
so
all night.
saddening.
Literally all
So
night.
It's
saddening
so
that
infuriating because also if you think about how dysregulating birth is, I was actually just having this conversation with
Girl.
a client today. She's getting ready to give birth. And I was like, again, inherently, it's dysregulating because you are going into fight or flight because your body is going through a trauma. And when I
Yeah.
speak to trauma in this sense, it's not, yes, some births are absolutely traumatic, but even outside of that, like birth is a trauma to the body.
is a trauma
You're
to the
being
body.
ripped, you're being drawn and quartered from the inside. Like
100%.
and so
And we love to pretend that it's not.
and we love to pretend like it's not. We love to pretend like it's not dangerous for a woman to even make a
Right.
decision to have a baby and life
Exactly.
like threatening potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like if you think about that 40 days as like nervous system recovery, and then we think about in America, people are going back to work at 2 weeks, 6 weeks. They barely even have a time for their reproductive organs to heal up. And then we wonder why postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, postpartum psychoses, like that whole spectrum, we wonder why that's such an issue in this country.
Right. It also just like shocked me to learn. So there's a new nonprofit called Chamber of Mothers, and it's like founded by women like all over the country. And I went to a chapter meeting in Massachusetts like a couple of weeks ago, and there was I guess like a postpartum therapist. Like she was a therapist, but specialized in postpartum and perinatal, what do you call them? Perinatal,
Like a postnatal doula or something.
no, she specialized in like they're like perinatal mental health, we'll just
Oh,
call
okay.
it like
Yeah.
so everything you just like mentioned, PPA, PPD, psychosis, all that stuff. And what I was surprised to learn was that so we have our 6-week appointment after giving birth, and then like that's it, right? That most people who give birth experience PPA, PPD, psychosis, suicidal thoughts after that.
Yeah.
Like you think that it happens like right after birth. It actually happens kind of like after that appointment, more like toward the end of the 4th trimester. And I think like the risk for suicide is highest around like the 1-year mark. And it's like, nobody's there for you.
Nobody's there for you. And it takes, people forget it takes like 2 years for the body to fully recover from pregnancy and birth. 2 years.
And people are having kids
6
within
months
that.
after. I know. It's
Oh
wild.
my gosh, and I'm going to post it at some point, but I was running on the treadmill And I was like, Mark, film me, because yesterday when I was in the doctor's office, I was deleting pictures and I was looking at this time last year of like what my body looked like. And I wanted a side-by-side comparison of me like running on the treadmill. And first of all, my body was just like completely different, but I just felt so sad that like, I just felt so sad that I was so sad about my body.
Yeah.
And I felt like, because
That's bounce
everybody
back culture.
around me, everyone around me, all of the girls that do fitness and everybody who had a vaginal birth and then also some people who had a C-section birth and just like pushed it. And I was like, it is literally taking me the full ass 2 years to
Which
come
there's a
back
lot of
to.
reasons why that could be, right?
Right. Yes. And some of them, like, I would not trade places. Right. But I just like, I guess I just appreciate knowing and then having you reiterate that like, this takes a long time. There was like, I was sliced open and my child was pulled out of my body. Like that shit is not normal. It's not like an everyday thing.
Part your like people
Everything.
realize like I remember when I worked for a chiropractor in LA, I went to some like I think it was called Cal Jam. It was a little culty. But there was somebody that talked about how I think it's like majority of women who have a cesarean section, when they go to fill out like medical intake paperwork at a new doctor's office, and it says, have you had any major surgeries?
Oh my
Do
God.
not list
Oh my
C-section
God.
Oh
as
my
a major
God.
surgery.
Wow.
They
Wow.
don't think that that's a major surgery. And it's one of the most major surgeries that you can have.
That makes me so sad.
It's so sad. And I think that like, again, like we don't, I think that, so anxiety is, it's chronic and
Right.
especially in this country. I can't speak for other countries, but I was putting my deck together and like looking for some stats. And I think it was from like the World Health Organization, and which is like that BS article that came out that said like the mental health effects of COVID was like
Oh
minimal,
my God.
which it's funny because World Health Organization said that like diagnosis of chronic anxiety went up. It's either 25 or 50%. Both of those
Both those are
are
terrible.
obscene numbers.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with anxiety is that people, the reason I do what I do is because I've lived it. I know what it's like to have emotional flashbacks. I know what it's like to feel like a stranger in your body, to be disassociated all the time, to be anxious all the time. Like I know it. And I also know that if I can do the work and I can be sitting here now, still alive, still here, anybody can do it. And I also like, it's so isolating. And if my only like mission in life is for everybody who experiences chronic anxiety, PTSD, any type of anxiety or depression, like you're not alone.
Yeah.
There's so many of us suffering, and you don't have to suffer at the level that you're suffering. There is help available, and there are ways to shift it. It just takes a lot of work, which leads me to, I find that people only start to heal when the discomfort of their trauma and pain becomes more painful than the discomfort of healing, because healing is excruciating.
That's so interesting. I think it's spot on. I never thought of
I
it
think
that
it's
way.
spot on too.
And I think the other thing that kind of comes to mind in listening to you, there was an article that I read recently that was talking about the teenage anxiety crisis, and they were actually looking at the richest nations in the world and how teenage anxiety is now at its peak, because even though adults potentially have a little less anxiety and a little more happiness in the richest countries, the pressure they put on their kids to kind of transcend themselves puts them in a place that they can't cope. And
Absolutely.
the tools that that you espouse, like, why aren't we teaching them like much earlier on, right, in
These are
schools?
tools. I was going to say, I've said this forever. These are the things we should be learning how to regulate our emotions in school. We should be, especially little boys, like should be taught. I mean, we all should, but like, I think that in the 5 years that I've been doing this, I've had a consultation with 2 men.
Wow.
Wow.
That could be because like maybe people think I only work with women. It could be like for a multitude of reasons, but
Yeah,
I
it
think
could
that
be, but let's be real.
Yeah, no,
let's
we
be
know why.
real.
We know why. Yeah.
It's been 2 men in 5 years. And they usually don't end up working with me, and that's totally fine. But these are tools that should be being taught. I mean, Ashley and I have had this conversation in school.
Yeah.
These are basic ways to survive, and we're not being taught, because what kind of culture could we create if children learned how to self-regulate at a young age and learned
Truly.
about bodily autonomy and how to show up authentically in the world and think independently and express how they feel
Mhm.
and not hold on to bad things that are happening to them because they're afraid of what might happen to them. Like, I mean, it's deeply rooted in white supremacy. Like, that's all I can say.
The other fascinating thing that you just kind of called out, I was listening to a podcast. I was a psychologist on it, and he had mentioned that specifically, especially this country, but the biggest threat to this country is young white males, right? Because the whole thing that he said is like they're completely dysregulated. They don't know how to deal with the emotions. And even if we go back to my pet peeve, which is this is the same community that has all these opinions,
Right.
but cannot like take an ounce of feedback and has zero self-awareness, and they have
And a woman
no
tells
place to
them
put that.
no, or somebody tells them no, and what ends up happening? School shootings.
There you go.
Exactly.
It really is like, it's so sad. And it's also like, you know how people like after George Floyd murders, everybody's like, our system's broken, our system's broken. It's like, no, our system's functioning exactly as it was meant to function.
This is exactly
Like a
what it
finely
was
oiled
supposed to
machine.
be.
Yep.
100%. 100%. But yet we'd rather, like pay our teachers bullshit, number one. Number two, make sure
And our teachers are dysregulated.
our teachers are
Because they are
dysregulated,
undervalued and stressed
underpaid, everything.
underpaid, no resources.
Nope. And then we want to put all of our emphasis on standardized tests. Okay.
Which are, again, those are also rooted in.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like testing does not measure a student's intelligence. Like there have been studies on this. We know this. And yet
know it, but they keep
we
harping on it.
continue to do it. Yeah.
Do you know what's
What?
fascinating about that? Today, there was a report, I think out of Boston actually, where a lot of colleges are relinquishing SAT tests, and because of the exact point that you made. But the counter pressure is the way that they're assessing kids now is by the myriad of things that the kids do. So it's not about testing anymore.
But
Like,
then you
it's
have to
about-
volunteer for everything. You have to play
Exactly
every
right.
fucking sport. So it's
Exactly right. So
still
like you're swapping one thing for another, right?
It's not about
Versus-
how compassionate or intelligent
Exactly.
or like what
Exactly.
kind of thing these kids actually want to do and changes that they want to make in the world.
Yeah.
It's all about how they can provide something for and serve somebody else.
exactly. This is to me, like this is what it all comes back to. It's like, how much can you produce?
Yeah.
Right. That's all we care about in this society is like how much you can produce, how hard you can work, how perfect you're going to be, how much you're just going to like fall in line and follow the
Capitalism.
status quo. That's it. That's
Yeah.
100% it. And I think that like I'm glad these other things are coming into the conversation because it's all interrelated, whether you're talking
Yes.
about pregnancy, whether you're talking about kids in schools, whether you're talking about mass shootings, like all of these things come back to how like I don't want to like reduce it, but truly like how we are functioning in our bodies.
Yeah. And most of us, especially Black and brown bodies, don't know what it's like to feel. A lot of us in general, but especially Black and brown bodies, don't know what it's like to experience feeling safe in your own body.
Fuck no. No. I don't
Like
feel
most
safe in
people
my
will be
own
like, what does
body.
that even feel like?
No, I couldn't
And
tell
that's
you.
like why I think that it's so important to, again, back to why it's part of why I'm so like passionate about integrating in intersectionality into the work that I do, because I don't feel safe when I walk out in the world at night. There's a lot of other people that don't look like me that don't feel safe when they walk out in the world at all.
Right.
And I know that if I show up in a room that is predominantly not white, then a large number of those people might not feel safe just from my presence.
Yeah, that's real.
And it's important for me to know how to regulate my nervous system so that I can show up in that room and not take up space.
Yeah.
And not need to be loud, and just be there so that these other people can learn how to self-regulate and feel safe in their bodies just because my presence is there. And it's I know for other white people listening, that's a really, really hard pill to swallow, but it is the truth.
Yeah.
How did you get there? Right? Was there a moment in your life where there was like this grand epiphany, or was this like a series of just adjustments? Because I think what you just said is absolutely the truth, and foundationally what holds so many people back.
Yeah.
Right.
When I started my trauma recovery, I started anti-racism work around the same time, because I don't think you can do trauma recovery without doing anti-racism work, because I don't think that you can recover from trauma without looking at how you may have caused harm to others unknowingly.
That's amazing.
It took a lot of sitting with discomfort. I used to be I'm not a racist white person. I used to be I'm not part of the problem. I don't, say racist things. I don't, whatever. And so it took sitting down and actually really getting honest with myself of how I maybe had unknowingly, accepting the fact that I am raised in a country where I benefit from white supremacy every single day. Yes, I am oppressed because I'm a woman, but it's like oppressed light, right? Like not light, but like it's not the same as a Black woman or a brown woman. And so just coming to that knowing of, makes me emotional. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I don't want to harm anybody any longer. I want to contribute to creating safety for all people.
So if that was just the definition of good for a moment, right? Like, I just want to pause there, right? I think so many people say that they're good people. I think what you just define is the essence of what good and great is, right? People who actually have both curiosity and enough self-awareness to know that they participate in the problem themselves.
Yeah. Thank you. I think it's I don't think that we will really progress forward until people who live in white bodies understand that we are inherently part of the problem and make decisions to do differently. Nobody's asking us to do it perfect. I am going to mess up. I am going to fuck up. I am going to do, but it's being able to sit and listen and not speak and not take up space and get really comfortable with getting uncomfortable and then move differently from that mess up moving forward. That's all that's being asked of us. And I think that people misunderstand and think, oh, well, I can't do it perfectly, so I might as well not do it at all. And you are, and you will continue to cause harm.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to pivot us because we'll be here all night.
I know.
Like, we're going to need a part 2. Like, we're going to have to, like, you're going to have to come back. You're going to have to come back. Can you talk to us about what some of those tools might be? So like, we're like going to start to head toward the end of this episode, fortunately. But tell people what they can start to do besides hire you as their coach.
Yes. First of all, but I'm also very big with accessibility, and because of the work that I'm so passionate about, I that's why I give so much online. I have I have a BIPOC sliding scale, and it's explained on my website because this work has not historically been accessible to people. And it's also a form of reparations. And I think that that's really important. But if you want to simply just start integrating nervous system regulation into your daily, that's actually it. It's yes, you need to have tools for when anxiety is acute. And
Yes.
you also need to have tools for like what we call like low anxiety or maintenance tools. You can use the acute tools for the maintenance, but you cannot use the maintenance for the acute because they won't be enough. So for example, a maintenance tool is meditation. And a lot of people have a hard time with meditation because they look at it as being in a box. And I want to say right now that meditation is what you make it. I believe that it's anything that you do intentionally. You can take a meditative walk. You can make dinner meditatively. You can do guided meditations. I think for people who are like neurodivergent, have a really hard time like focusing, like sitting in silence is one form of meditation that most people don't do. So there's guided meditations, there's somatic meditations. And the reason you can't do a meditation when you are in an acute state is because you are in what's called the dorsal vagal state and your critical brain is offline and it will not work. It could potentially make you feel like you're doing something wrong and maybe like stack the anxiety a little bit. So daily meditation's great. I also really love just like some daily pranayama or breath work. One of my absolute favorites is left nostril breathing. It is as simple as it sounds. You plug your right nostril, keep your mouth closed, deeply inhale in through your nose, out through your nose. You'll do like 3 rounds and you'll already be feeling better. But I always tell people, set a timer, do like 3 to 5 minutes every morning. Cold showers, I know they suck. I know they suck.
I will not do them.
Do not have to get into a cold shower. I do my hot shower and then I end with cold. You turn it as cold as you can go. Let it beat on your chest. Take deep inhales through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. You know, I try to take like 4 or 5 on my front, 4 or 5 on my back, wash my face down. You will feel amazing afterwards, because it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and you finish the stress cycle. And afterwards you go into that parasympathetic nervous system and then your body finds baseline. Daily grounding. And what I mean by that is moments of full mindfulness and presence in your body. So like body scans are really great, like sinking into your feet, becoming aware of how your clothes feel hanging on your body, how the air in the room feels on your skin, the taste in your mouth, just like really coming in. And what these teach you is like how to recognize what's going on in your body. So if you do that grounding and you're like, oh, I've got something in my chest, like, let me sit with that for a few minutes. Or I'm feeling something in my jaw. Maybe I'll place my hand on my jaw and like breathe into it. The tool I shared yesterday with like a hand on the chest and just taking deep breaths, it highlights the same areas in your brain as a hug, and has the same stress reducing benefits. So, I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many things you can do daily, and the daily or regularly is really, really important because your body learns, oh, when we do these things, we're doing this, we're calming down, we're finding baseline, we're coming into presence. And so when you need to access those things, when you're a little bit more anxious, or when you go to use an acute tool, your body will respond more quickly and go through the stress cycle at a quicker rate.
That makes a ton of sense. I have a very tactical question. You had basically said specifically left nostril breathing.
Yes.
So like,
yeah.
why left and not right?
So like I grew up in a yoga cult.
This is why we need to have you back, because we didn't even go into where you came from and how you got here.
So left nostril helps to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. The air goes past some kind of, I did a whole post on it. I can't like remember exactly right now, but it helps to stimulate and calm the brain. It also calms the mind and gets you into that parasympathetic state. The right nostril is actually great for midday when you are having a slump and you're questioning whether you should go for a second cup of coffee or like do some breath work. You can do right nostril.
So fascinating to me.
I know.
You can do right nostril breathing and it'll actually like, it's called like a nervous system stimulant, but not in a way that would cause anxiety. And then there's also like, Amrit-Sadhana, which is like alternate nostril breathing, which is one of my favorites. And you like, that's also great for both because it balances both right and left hemispheres of the brain and everything. For acute anxiety, my favorite tool and the tool that I went viral for is an ice pack to your chest or the back of your neck. And the reason why is that cold therapy has been proven to stimulate the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the body. It's the 10th cranial nerve. It spans from your brain stem all the way down into and wraps around your small intestine. And it controls 80% ish plus of your parasympathetic nervous system. So what it will do is help to slow the heart rate, regulate the breath. It's fast, it's effective, it's accessible. The amount of DMs that I've gotten from people being like, do you realize how many thousands of dollars you've saved me from emergency room trips from my panic attack? And then the other one I really love is shaking, which some people are like, yeah, the last thing I'm going to do when I'm having a panic attack is shake. And it's like, well, you have to do something different.
You
like,
got to move the
that's
energy.
the hard truth. You have to do something different. And what shaking does is it's literally like stand up, jump up and down, shake your arms, shake your legs. Like you go for like 1 to 3 minutes. And that helps to complete the stress cycle and help you come back to baseline.
Wow.
I actually, like, fun fact, I went, oh my God, Katie Mackin because of the mentorship thing.
Yeah.
So Katie lives on the West Coast now. We went to brunch because she came here to visit, and we were talking about finishing the stress cycle. And she was like, talking about how, like, when you watch like a dog, like do that like whole shake.
Okay. So yes. So I like to use the gazelle
fair.
Yeah. So I use this analogy with my clients all the time. So if you've ever watched a nature show and, a gazelle is getting chased by a lion and it gets away, it goes off by itself and it shakes because it's shaking the trauma off its body and it's finishing the stress cycle. And once it feels safe in its body again, it will head back
when
into
it goes, which is amazing to me. It's
and
like,
if we watch animals,
this.
yes, we know it. It's in our DNA.
It.
It's in our DNA. We've lost touch with what our bodies are here to do. And there's just so many other factors at play. But shaking is also screaming into a pillow's vastly underrated.
Listen, I agree. Sometimes I don't even bother getting the pillow.
Because
I'll just fucking scream.
Well, because we can talk next time about how anger and anxiety can feel the same and how repressing anger can contribute to more anxiety. They can feel similar in the body.
Yeah. Yep. Tell people where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Yes. So I'm the Untamed Herbalist on all platforms. I just started a YouTube and I'm terrified. Right now I've just done shorts, but I think I'm going to start doing like some longer meditations and practices.
Oh my gosh.
So it's the Untamed Herbalist on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as just the untamedherbalist.com. And you can schedule a discovery call with me, which is just some time to see if we'd be a good fit for one another and me to go over my options. And I also toying around with doing a subscription that's like would be like group coaching-esque, but way more affordable and just maybe like a monthly live call and a couple meditations or something like that. But that's where you can find me. And if you are a company and you and you have a wellness program and you want to support your employees in their mental health, hire me to come speak at you.
So this is also definitely one I want to talk more about in our next session, because I work for multiple very large companies and we always have wellness programs.
Well,
and
Mark,
this is not anything we ever talk about. So.
I know. And I think that mental health is trending. The nervous system is trending. It's when I started doing this like 5 years ago, there was me and one other person that I knew of, not saying that there weren't more, but now it's like, I'm seeing everybody talk about the nervous system, and there's a lot of wrong information out there. And also not like there's only one way, but like, just be cognizant of like, if there's any spiritual bypassing, if there's any, like, you're not manifesting because your nervous system is dysregulated, if you're hearing any of that, please hear me when I tell you you're not broken and that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I see it a lot and it hurts my heart.
Done and done. You are the best. Thank you so much for
guys.
coming on, and thank you for waiting for Zion
Oh
to
my
fall
God,
asleep.
yes.
You got to catch
At
up.
least I know I got some time with you. Everybody, I hope you really, 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 really enjoyed this episode, and like, she'll be back because we have so many other things to
Definitely.
talk about.
Definitely.
Make sure you follow, hire, recommend, share, all the things, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.